I'm Megan Maggi, joined by Jason Johns. We are at the Military Order of the Purple Heart Convention in Norfolk, Virginia. Jason, thank you for being with me today.
You're welcome. You're very welcome.
Okay, you're born and raised in Wisconsin. Is there a legacy of service in your family?
Actually, there is. My grandfather served was in the Chosun Reservoir during the Korean War. In that battle, my dad served not in Vietnam, but during the Vietnam era. And then my great uncle was injured and wounded in the Battle of the Bulge. So there's a service there. And then my uncle is retired Command Sergeant Major in the Marine Corps. So
definitely a legacy there. Was that an inspiration for serving?
Yeah, there was an inspiration there, and there was also, growing up, my grandfather, although he didn't serve, because he was a farmer and they made him stay at home. He had no sons to run the farm for the food effort during World War II. But he would always take me up to VFW post at least once or twice a week. And then in the summers, I would stay with him and I'd mow their lawn and listen to these guys' stories. And yeah, so I was growing up around it.
And when did you first you joined the reserve, correct?
Correct. Yep. After high school, I knew I wanted to go to law school, so I enlisted in the National Guard, and then did 4 years with them. And then when I went to law school, I did 3 years with the reserves. And then after that, I got out in August of 2002. And then in February of 2003, one of my old units got mobilized for service over in Iraq pre-invasion. So I volunteered to go with them and re-enlisted.
And what kind of duties did you have during these assignments?
So with my unit I went to Iraq with, I was the team leader there. I was motor transportation, 88 Mike, but then cross-trained over as a combat engineer. And our duties in country, we arrived in May of 2003, was really quite a lot of everything. It was obviously early on, the invasion had just happened. So it was a lot of tasking out, working with infantry companies, working with MP companies. So there was transportation convoys, there was force protection, there was manning checkpoints to allow for infantry folks to kind of do some other things. And then there was what we call Rat Patrol, which was the 11 Bravos, the infantry, would take us with them while they were knocking on doors looking for insurgents, and we would put up a perimeter around that village or that particular neighborhood to stop anybody from squeezing out the Rat Patrol. So.
Okay. Eventually you were wounded in Iraq, correct?
Yes, on October 26, 2003, we'd been manning a checkpoint just north of Samara for a couple of days at that point, actually, and the enemy we knew had been kind of watching and scoping. Somewhere in the middle of the night, they got to that checkpoint site, planted a couple anti-tank landmines, and our vehicles, when we came in, we hit those, and the result of that was I ended up with going for a ride there, getting knocked out, took some shrapnel, my back got twisted up, and then I had ruptured hearing, of course, in both ears. And so I was given the option to go to Germany to convalesce, regroup, see if I can return, or to go to a field hospital and see if I could heal and return to duty. I chose to stay in country. I spent 2 weeks at the field hospital. Once I was able to get back on my feet, then I returned and finished my tour, which we were there till April. But it was very painful to continue, especially with my back. But I was glad I did, glad I finished. So.
Tell me a little bit more about that experience and eventually transitioning back into civilian life.
Sure. So, I always describe it to people as the best, worst experience I ever had. And I say there's good days, there's bad days. When I think of the good, I think about the camaraderie with my guys, and I stayed enlisted even though I was an attorney by that time, and as a sergeant with the Guard. And I really look back on those days fondly. That camaraderie is something you never can recreate. And then there's also a lot of the good we did. I mean, there was a lot of local residents at that time anyway who were very happy we were there and you could see it. And then of course there's the bad days, right? When people are getting wounded, people are getting killed. And then also you're just spending every day wondering, am I coming back to camp tonight? So that wears on you. But again, toughest, proudest thing I've done. I'm glad I did it. I would do it again. Thought about going back, but then I got married and started having children and started my career in full force. And so then I put my energy into veterans advocacy. So,
which sounds like it's been very fruitful.
Yeah, yeah. It's something I'm so damn proud of. I don't get paid for it, but if I could, it'd be great. But I got involved and put that energy, and it was part of my healing too, because I had a couple of years there where there was a lot of stuff going on, and anger and depression, and when I finally started going to the VA and getting help, and then getting involved with veterans groups like the Military of the Purple Heart. I was doing hunt and fishing group events with Wounded Warriors in Action, and I kind of got out there and was, the healing there. And then since I got into a career in lobbying in Wisconsin, and so I was working as a lobbyist and getting to, basically I was representing the VFW, the American Legion, and the MOPH, doing other legislative work pro bono. That, of course, got me recognized by legislators and such. And I was then appointed by our governor to serve as a deputy secretary of the Wisconsin Department of Veterans Affairs. I did that for 2 years, and then went into the private sector again and started my own little lobbying group, still represent the MOPH and the VFW, and then also took my legal and focused all my legal on representing veterans with their appeals and the Board of Veterans Appeals, and then the U.S. Court for Appeals for Veterans Claims. I could go on and on, I apologize. Different boards, different volunteers. I couldn't imagine not doing it, even though I've got 2 businesses to run and a family, and thank goodness I have a patient, understanding wife who gets why I need to do it. It's a duty I feel I have. It's to be in the position I'm in my career. There's not a whole lot of us that have been through combat, that are also attorneys, that are also involved in the political world. And so I feel I have an obligation to do it, which is one of the reasons I ran for National Judge Advocate with the Military of the Purple Heart 2 years ago. So I've been doing that for 2 years.
How did you originally get connected with the Military Order of the Purple Heart?
So there was a department commander for the VFW at the time, Bill Hustad. He's from New Glarus, which is about 20 miles away from me. But he had kind of taken me under his wing as a mentor, mentee. Hey, I think you can really help us out, so on and so forth. And then when he found out I had a Purple Heart, he said, well, I'm also a Purple Heart recipient from Vietnam. You should join our MOPH chapter, excuse me, in Madison. And I wasn't aware at the time that we even had one. And so that's kind of where that all started. Yeah.
So thinking on, those dark days that you've been able to get through and help other veterans get out of those dark days too, what has been your inspiration for being able to get through that and help others and do this great work?
Yeah, my inspiration is to see the actual positive effects you can have on guys. Sometimes it's just as simple as taking them fishing. Sometimes it's just as simple, I know you talked to Greg Hack earlier, of getting him out of the house. When I first met him, they just amputated his leg. He was living in his parents' house, and I got him involved in our bowling league, the local VFW bowling league. And that just started to bring him back out of his shell, back to his old self, and then got him involved. And so, when we're in the service, we've got this purpose, right? You've got a mission. And when you're out, all of a sudden you're going, what is that purpose and mission now? And so, we've got our families, we've got our jobs, but you're missing that mission. And so when you get involved in veterans advocacy or helping other veterans, you start saying, all right, that's my mission. And when you start showing other guys that and you're seeing you're helping them out, that helps you. I've always said that, when I go on these events, when I take guys somewhere, it's a little bit of healing for me every time too. And to be able to now, hey, you know what, I was where you are now 5 years ago. Here's how I did it, and so that's each time. Even now I've been home, 12 years already. But still, there's days, and so you get a little bit of that every time. It's a support network. It needs, we have that in the military again too with the mission. We also have the squad, the platoon to rely on, and so you need to build that in the civilian world to rely on each other there too. And I think the more and more we can do that, the more and more we're going to keep from falling down the rabbit hole. So.
Jason, you've served our nation in multiple ways for many years now. When you think about your service, what are you most proud of?
Ooh, tough one. I would say, you mean one particular thing? Or an overall?
You can answer it however you
Sure. Well, as far as my military service, the most particular thing I'm proud of is my service in Iraq. As far as in the civilian side now with my veterans advocacy, the most thing I'm proud of is having made time. I would say make time. I make time. I don't have time all the time. But serving in this role as I'm in now, as the National Judge Advocate for the Military of the Purple Heart. And the reason for that is it has afforded me the opportunity of, when I said about building that support network, giving guys a mission, giving them a purpose, well, now I'm able to do that on a national scale. And every time that I'm able to do something like that and help another guy, I mean, each one of those is its own proud moment. So.
Well, unfortunately, I think you're needed elsewhere, so
Yeah,
we'll have to cut this
gotta
short.
get on the convention floor.
It's been a pleasure talking with you. Thank you for chatting with me today, and thank you for your service.
Thank you very much.
I've been talking with Jason Johns, a veteran of the U.S. Army and National Guard as well, Wisconsin Army National Guard, and very active in veterans advocacy. I'm Megan Maggi. This has been Veterans Chronicles, and we're talking at the Military Order of Purple Heart Convention in Norfolk, Virginia.